Hey nerds, what's up? Today I'm going to rank all of the Cosmere characters. See you after the jump. So someone requested I do this after I ranked all of the Cosmere works in one of my last videos, and I thought it sounded really fun, so I decided that I wanted to do it. Now, before we jump into it, I do have a few criteria that I'm thinking about. The most obvious being like, how much do I like this character? But I also consider how excited I am to read from their point of view, and also how excited I am in the way that they move the story forward. All of those things kind of blend together when I consider how much I like or dislike a Cosmere character. Now, I'm also not doing what I did with the Cosmere books, which is ranking them in order. There's just too many characters and it's too difficult. So I have come up with a new ranking system to figure out how I like these. And yes, I'm probably going to pronounce some of these names wrong. I think I've corrected a few since my last video, but I went on the 17th shard to try to figure out what the pronunciation were of all of these, because there are over 60 characters that I'm going to be ranking today, which was just too much for me to try to figure out in the audiobook, like how they sound. But I noticed that the 17th shard Coppermind does not have pronunciation guides. So if you're a part of the 17th shard and you're in my comments, let me know. I'll help out with that. I think they'd be very useful. Maybe just to me. I don't know. Let me know. So let's get started. Here are my categories. I have all-time favorites. Now I want to say that this category is going to be incredibly picky. I limited it so I couldn't put very many in this category. And then almost favorites. These are the ones that I wanted to put in that category, but again, I'm trying to make it small. Then we have really like. Neutral is going to kind of be a dual purpose category, which is like either I have no feelings about them or I don't remember enough about them to have feelings now. It's been a few years since I've reread some of these novels, so some of those smaller characters I don't really remember enough to have an opinion on. Then I have meh, dislike, love to hate, and just hate. So let's jump into it. I'm gonna go in order. So the first one is Vin. And you know what? I really like Vin. Mistborn was the first Brandon Sanderson I read that was just his, that wasn't Wheel of Time. And so I have that kind of connection to Vin. I like her, even though I think he's one of his more basic, kind of strong female characters. I really like Vin. Now, Kelsier, this is one that, I don't know, I think a lot of people like Kelsier, but he goes in my all-time favorites. Yeah. Kelsier, I fell in love with him when I first read Mistborn. I was devastated about what happened. I realize I'm trying to keep this spoiler free, so I won't go any further than that. I just felt like, of course. But then Mistborn Secret History came out and I was super happy. You know what? I'm fooled by him. I know he's not that great of a person, but he's super charismatic and I bought into it, and I love me some Kelsier. Sazed. Man, Mistborn really has a lot of good characters. Sazed kind of goes back and forth for me between Kelsier on who my favorite Mistborn character is. So he's an almost favorite. I love Sazed. I know a lot of people do. He's that kind of archetype of character, the wise character that leads our heroine through her troubles. And I always have felt connected to those type of characters. You know, the Gandalfs, the Dumbledores of the world. I feel like Sazed really falls into that. And I'm a sucker for those sorts of characters. So he's definitely an almost favorite. I need to go faster. I realize this. Elend. Elend's an interesting one because in the beginning I didn't really like him and he grew on me. By the third book I really liked Elend, but I just thought he was kind of a boring character, but I really like Elend now. Okay, he's up with Vin. I didn't like him as much first, but by the end of the series I really like him. Again, I'm taking too much time. Marsh. Now this is one I found out that people don't like Marsh. I really like Marsh. I'm really interested in his character. I really get to hope we see more of him. I was always super excited when he showed up in Mistborn. Yeah, I really like Marsh. Okay, so next we have Kelsier's crew, Marsh, Doxson, and Breeze. And I'm sorry guys, like, I don't remember enough about them individually to really form opinions about them. So these three are gonna be fast. It's gonna be neutral for me. Like, yeah, I like them, they're fine. I don't have any like strong opinions either way about any of them. And maybe if my last reread of this book hadn't been 5 years ago, I'd feel more strongly about them, but they're not differentiated enough in my mind for me to have a more opinion. Now, Spook, I obviously do remember. He's the next one, but I was just never like an over-the-board Spook lover. He's fine. I'm neutral about him. Like, yeah, he's fine. Sorry, I feel like there's probably a lot of Spook lovers who aren't gonna love that, but yeah, he's fine. Okay, so now we're on to Twindle. Who's dislike? Maybe just hate. It's somewhere between dislike and just hate. Guys, I hated Dwindle. I don't know why. I feel like that might be a really unpopular opinion. She just annoyed me so much. I wonder if I'd feel different on a reread now. I understand her character. Like, I liked that she was different, and I'm always into that different female characters, but just somehow the way she interacted with the other characters just really bothered me. I feel like maybe hate is too much. I'll just say dislike. Okay, now this is a hot take. So this is Tensoon, or Orsur as I like to call him, because I don't like the name Tensoon, but I love the name Orsur. He was one of my favorite characters of Mistborn, like all-time favorites. I love Tensoon. I don't know why. I just loved when we found out who he was and his relationship with Vin. He always was just my favorite character whenever I read Era 1 Mistborn. So I realize that is crazy that he is in my all-time favorites, but there it is. That's my hot take. I love Orsur. Okay, so now we're going on to Era 2. Now, I feel bad. A lot of Era 2 is just gonna hit that neutral zone for me. I'm pretty sure this is Miles. It was really hard to tell what pictures these all were for. Miles, I'm neutral on. Again, I didn't love Era 2, so I just don't have enough memory to really have an opinion. Then we have Wax. I'm neutral about Wax. He's fine. You know how I feel about him if you've watched any of my other videos. He's fine. He's fine. Wayne, I feel meh on. I get that he has like this kind of complicated character going on with the gun thing in there, and that's interesting, but I just don't like his humor. It's just not funny to me. I'm just meh. I just don't really love reading Wayne whenever I do. I'm sorry. I know there are so many Wax and Wayne lovers, so it's fine. Let me hear it in the comments. I know, but that's how I feel. Okay, Marcy. I always said Marcy, Marseille, tell me. Marcy, I'm neutral on. She's fine. It's fine. Steris, on the other hand, is definitely like to really like. I'm trying to think. I think it's because Era 2 isn't my favorite, but I think if I just think of Steris as a standalone, she's probably in really like. I so identify with her love of paperwork and things just being just so, and I just think that's a really cool character. I also liked her development over the series that we've seen so far, so I really enjoy Steris. I think for me, she is the standout character of Era 2. Milan or Melan. I say Milan. I like Milan a lot. I'm kind of a sucker for the Khandra. I like them all. They're pretty fun. And then we've got Renette. I also liked Renette. Actually, I think the female characters really stand out for me in Era 2. Renette's fun. I know she's kind of like that typical character, but I liked her. I liked her part of the story. Okay, that was all for Era 2. I'm sorry. Lots of kind of neutrals. Don't have a ton of strong feelings about Era 2 characters. We're going on to Elantris next. Starting with Raoden. Now, before I go on, I'm sorry, this is taking forever. Elantris, I will kind of go on that hill, die on that hill of that I love the magic in Elantris and I love the storyline, but the characters are kind of the weakest, not because they are bad characters, but because I find them to be just the typical fantasy characters. They tend to fall as the most uninteresting characters in my opinion, that they aren't different from a lot of other fantasy I've read. And because of that, I feel neutral about a lot of these characters. Like, they're not bad, they're just nothing to write home about. So Raoden goes in neutral for me because of that. Same with Serene. I'm just neutral. They're fine. They're fine. But again, I don't have like strong connections to them. I think the one character I'm gonna put out of the neutral zone here is Hrathen. I really enjoyed what his character went through. I'm kind of a sucker for that. I'm not saying it's so unique, but I enjoyed it. So I'm gonna bump him up to like from neutral, my big thing. And then the other two, characters from Elantris, Dilaf, and Galadin, neutral. I guess, Galadin, I liked him. I guess I could put him up in I'll stay with neutral. Again, I don't have enough an opinion, so I'll stay with neutral with him. Okay, next we've got Warbreaker, which is my favorite Brandon Sanderson. And something that I think is interesting about those characters is there isn't really, it's not like all of them are in my all-time favorite characters, but a lot of them just are, I like them. There's no characters I dislike, I think, from Warbreaker, even if they're not my all-time favorites. So starting with Vivenna. Vivenna, I definitely put into Now, Vivenna I know is super obnoxious, but the thing I like about her is the storyline she goes through. So her as a character herself, I understand in Warbreaker, maybe not loving her, but I love the journey she goes on. And now as Azure, I think we're gonna get to know her a lot more, and I'm very excited for what she's bringing to the story. And so that's why I think she's up there for me. Ciri, I really like Ciri. I like her as a female character. I've talked about that in my Brand Sanderson female character video, so I won't do it at length. I like Ciri. Again, Vasher. I put her in really sorry. And Vasher, again, I really like Vasher. Obviously, I like that we get to see more of him. He's a great character. Lightsong is an almost favorite. He just gets beat out by another Warbreaker character, but I do love Lightsong. I love his part of the story. He is definitely an almost favorite. Blushweaver, again, I really like her. Great character. It is interesting, like, none of these are my all-time favorites, but I really like all of them, which I think is one of the reasons I like Warbreaker so much, is that there's no characters I really actively dislike in the book. And Nightblood. This is kind of embarrassing. Nighttime's one of my all-time favorite characters in the Cosmere. Sorry, not sorry. I know that's so dumb. He's a sentient sword, and I realize you guys are probably mad that he's beat out like a lot more deep characters, but if I go by like who I am the most excited to see, who makes me laugh the most, like Nightblood is probably one of the few Brandon Sanderson characters that I actually find humorous, that I actually think is funny, that I actually really enjoy, and I just love sentient objects. So I don't know. Nightblood is my all-time favorite character from Warbreaker. I realize that's a super hot take, but there it is. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. And then we can't forget Susebron. I really like Susebron. See, like I really like all of the Warbreaker characters. I think he's really fun. I really like, again, his journey that he goes through. So now we're going on to the big one, Stormlight Archive. Let's get into it. Starting with Kaladin. Kaladin is an almost favorite. Again, I'm trying to keep my all-time favorites list very curated. So Kaladin just misses out on my Stormlight spot for all-time favorite character, but I love Kaladin. Again, I'm just a sucker for that zero to hero trope. I really enjoy it in all the books I read, and Kaladin just fits into that perfectly. And I like the stuff he struggles with. It's hard. Kaladin is the character I usually am most excited to read Viewpoint from. So that's why he's so high for me, because I always just like his storylines the best. Next is Shallan. Shallan's interesting. I feel like Shallan's just in like for me. I feel often annoyed when I read from Shallan's perspective, but at the same time, I love that Brandon made her such a mess. Like, that's one of my favorite parts about her. It's just that I don't necessarily enjoy reading it all the time, but I'm grateful she exists. I like her as a character. Next is Dalinar, who's also in like for me. Again, great character, just not necessarily always my favorite viewpoint to hear from in the Stormlight Archive, but I obviously really like his storyline right now and some of the things that's going on with him. So yeah, I like Dalinar. Adolin. Really like. I need just a golden retriever happy character in the Stormlight Archive. Just one whose life seems very happy, and I'm glad he's there. I hope it stays that way. And you know, Adolin, I naturally say Adolin in Wards of Radiance is just really great. So he goes into really like for me. Renarin into like. I think he'll probably go into really like when we hear more from him. Right now, I just don't feel like I've spent enough time with him to really develop a lot of feelings towards him. Next is Jasnah. Obviously, we know where Jasnah goes. All-time favorite. I think she's my all-time favorite character of the Cosmere. I know this is not an unpopular opinion. Again, just the super smart, put-together character I love, but I also think there's a lot going on behind the scenes with Jasnah. I'm super interested to hear about her backstory, and I guess that's not coming to like book 10, so that's devastating, but it's fine. I've waited this long. I can wait longer. And by the way, yes, I do know it's technically Jasnah, but I literally refuse. So Jasnah. She's one of my all-time favorite characters, if not favorite character of the entire Cosmere. Navani is next, and you know, Navani's interesting because I think I would have been neutral to like about Navani before Rhythm of War, but I love her storyline so much in Rhythm of War that I'm putting her up to really like. I'm super interested to see where her scholarly pursuits go. I love the ending of Rhythm of War with her, so I'm just very excited. Okay, I know I'm taking too long. Next is Elhokar. Meh. You'll know my feelings on him in length if you've watched any of my Moash videos, but yeah, meh. I mean, it's not like he's a very likable dude. Seth. Now, Seth, I think, is probably a lot of people's all-time favorites. For me, he just hits really like. I really like hearing his perspective. I'm always excited to hear from him, especially since he has Nightblood now. I wouldn't necessarily say he's my favorite of the Stormlight Archive, but I obviously really like the journey he's gone on. I really like this idea of him being oath-bound, even though it was just psychological, like nothing was actually forcing him to do this, and just the moral complexity of that, I really enjoy reading about. So yeah, he's definitely in really like for me. Okay, next is Ishonai. Now, I think I'm going to talk about Ishonai and, Eshonai? Yeah, Eshonai and Venli together, and the reason is this. Obviously, in the beginning of the Stormlight Archive, Eshonai I liked a lot better. I was super invested in that story and how that was going to work out, particularly in Way of Kings. And then Venli is kind of her foil. And the problem I have is I was really excited to read from Venli's point of view in Rhythm of War, because I was interested in this, like, yeah, I really screwed up. I made a huge mistake, and how am I going to rectify this? And now I'm becoming a Radiant, and I need to hide that. Like, I just think that was so interesting. And so I was a little bit bothered by the revisionist history that Rhythm of War did, where actually Eshonai was the one that was trying to push things forward. And yeah, Venli made a mistake, but really she was like the kind sister or whatever. I don't know. I hope that's making sense. I was bummed. I wanted there to be more of a character growth for her rather than well, once we just hear her backstory, we'll understand her actions. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but it just disappointed me a little bit. So I actually feel like Eshonai was in like for me. I liked her, and right now Venli is just neutral, because I'm a little bummed with kind of how her Rhythm of War is going. I think her story will get more and more interesting as we go on, but right now, yeah, it's just a little bit of a disappointment for me. Okay, next is Lift. This will also be controversial. Lift is in dislike for me. I don't think she's funny. I don't find her amusing. I find her sort of annoying. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I mean, I don't hate her. She's a good character. I mean, she's good. I get what she's trying to do. But yeah, don't love her. Love to hate for Taravangian. Obviously, Taravangian is amazing. Anytime we get to hear from his point of views, I'm always so excited. I think that's why he goes into love to hate, because he's not a good person. Like, I can't just be like, he's an almost favorite character because he's a terrible person. I usually like good people as my favorite characters, but man, do I love him. When there's a chapter heading with his name, you know it's going to be a wild ride, and you know that the course of the book is changed once you hear from his point of view. So love to hate Taravangian, one of my favorite viewpoint characters for sure. Now next is Odium, and I'm going to cheat a little bit and just not rate Odium, because here's the question. Am I rating the Shard Odium? Am I rating race? Am I rating, I don't want to spoil anything, but in that case, I feel like I've already made my rating. So I don't really know how to, why Odium is a character on this. So just gonna skip that. Next is Amaram. Amaram, I just hate him. I hate his guts. He is the worst. Everything he does annoys me. I hate his self-satisfied, I'm actually good and doing things for the good. I hate him. I hate him. Nothing more. I hate him. I also think he was probably really rude to Jasmine at some point, and we're gonna hear about it in her history. I hate him. Moving on to all of the Spren. Syl, one of my all-time favorites, characters of all time. Again, not a surprise. I do think it's funny when I look at my all-time favorites, because she's my last entry in here, and I'm like, 3 of them could be considered not human, so I guess I have a vast preference for those kinds of characters. I feel like my all-time favorites is just a weird list. I don't know. You let me know if it's weird. Pattern, I obviously really like Pattern. No dividing by zero. Who couldn't love that? Wendell, I like a lot more than Lift. I like him. He's a like for me. Sorry, I keep scrolling here. Stormfather, I like the Stormfather. Again, I'm not over the world about it, but I like him. He's cool. Nail's a tough one. Is he in love to hate? I guess so. I mean, I'm really annoyed by his actions, but I also find him a very fascinating character. So I'm gonna probably put love to hate. Next, Moash. Moash is kind of on the line for me. I want to put him in just hate, but the problem is that he's so interesting to me. I am very excited for his viewpoints because I want to know what will happen. And because of that, I feel like maybe he's more in a love to hate section right now. I vacillate back and forth, either just hate or love to hate. I don't know, guys. All that talking to people who are Moash apologists, I think made me change my opinion on him a little bit permanently, even though I didn't want to. So I'll put him in love to hate. Next, we have all of Kaladin's Bridge 4 crew. Teft, obviously Teft goes up into really there's just something calming about his presence, and I just really like his story. Same with Rock. I mean, who can't love Rock? He's just a staple of Bridge 4 and probably one of my favorite Bridge 4 people. Now, Lynn, it's hard for me to rate Lynn. I like Lynn, but we don't know Lynn. We've only ever seen Lynn through the eyes of Kaladin or other Bridge 4 members. So I like her story. I'm just not invested because I don't really know her. So for that, I'm neutral. I don't really feel like I know her. The Lopen. I like the Lopen. The reason he's not in really like is he does suffer a little bit from Lift's humor that doesn't really hit for me, but you can't help but not like the Lopen. He's just kind of such a fun character. I'll put him in like. This next name I should have looked up. Sigil? 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 You know, that guy from Bridge 4. This picture one. Yeah, neutral, I guess. He's fine. I guess maybe I like him. I don't know. Somewhere between neutral and like. Again, I can't be invested in all of Bridge 4. Okay, it's too hard. There's too many of them. R'lain, definitely in like. I think he'll go again higher up as we get to know more about him. And it feels like Brandon has been hinting that we will hear more from R'lain a lot more in the next book as he becomes more and more important into the storyline. So I'm actually very excited for that. I think he's a very interesting character. I haven't gotten enough time with him to really have a bigger opinion than just like. And then the last characters are all the Worldhopper characters, starting with Hoid. Oh, I forgot. I have one more all-time favorite. Obviously Hoid, right? Isn't he on everyone's all-time favorites? He is the most interesting person to hear from. I'm always excited to see him in the book, the most excited character. He's an enigma. He feels all-powerful, yet we know he's not anymore. No spoilers. So he's obviously just like, I love him. Mostly because I don't know if I should, right? Like, I don't know. Brandon has always said, like, you don't know if he's good, you don't know if he's bad, he's for himself. And that is very interesting. So he's obviously an all-time favorite. Getting close to the end, Chris. Here's the thing about Chris. Who she represents as this amazing Cosmere scholar, I really, really like. Her as a character, I just don't feel like I've seen enough of. We have the graphic novels, which I don't feel really give us an opportunity to get close to characters. And then I read the unedited novel version, which again was just like not a final finished draft. So I just don't feel like we have enough info or time with Chris for me to feel a lot about her. So I feel like she's a neutral, maybe like, kind of between there, just because I don't know enough about her. I'm going to say like because I'm excited to get to know more about her. She seems like such a cool character, but as it stands now, like we just don't have a lot of info on her. Now the last character is Naz, and I feel the same way about him that I do about Chris. Obviously a fascinating Worldhopper, but do we know much about him or who he is as a person? I feel like we don't. So I'm neutral for now. I just need to know more information. Okay, there's my character ranking of the Cosmere. I feel like there's some hot takes in here that people are going to get mad about. So let me know in the comments what you thought. There are some people missing. Like I noticed they didn't put any of the characters from Thenity or from Emperor's Soul or any of the other novellas. I think that's fine. We don't get a lot of time with them, so I feel like a lot of those characters don't necessarily stand out. Although I do love Silence Montaigne. She would have been in really like. I also love Shay a lot. From the Emperor's Soul. I would have put her in like or really like. I know we don't spend a lot of time with them, but those stories really had an impact on me, so I would have put them up there somewhere. But overall, I want to know what you think. And particularly, I'm curious if any characters that are in my neutral section are one way or the other for you. I feel like it'd be very interesting if I feel very neutral about a character and one of my subscribers out there feels very strongly about them. So just let me know in the comments who are your all-time favorites of the Cosmere. Probably some different characters, so let me know in the comments. And if you liked this video, as always, please like and subscribe. And if you want to see what I'm currently reading, you can check me out on Instagram at bookborn.reviews. I'll see you next time. Bye.